welcome to the Utah Puck Report. I'm your hockey friend, your host of the hockey show. It's me, Jay Stevens. Tonight we're just going to talk about the Utah Hockey Club. We're going to get into some stuff, and I needed an expert. I needed someone who knew what they were talking about. So I called up a friend of mine, Mason Mannek, former Utah Grizz, former Portland Winterhawk. Mason, how are you?
Good, Jay. Thanks for having me on. I'm super excited. I think it's been like 6 years or something since my last feature on the Utah Puck Report. So
What? There's no
yeah,
way. Has it
I'm
really
pretty
been that
sure.
long?
I'm pretty sure it was my 18-year-old year in Portland. That could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
I see, and I feel like
So
I pick on you too much. I thought, man, I always call Mason, and I thought I had you on when you were with the Grizz for sure.
no,
Um,
call me anytime.
all right. Well, I'm gonna have to because like you're the NHL's in town now, and
Yeah.
every time I say that, it blows my mind. And now we're gonna need like real experts, and there are not a lot of real experts that have played at the level that you've played at. Have, when you were with Portland, did you play with any of these guys that are with Utah Hockey Club?
I did. I played against Valimaki. He played in Tri City when I was there. I don't know him personally or anything, but played against him a ton. And I'm trying to think if there's any others. There's a lot of guys that they played against that I know, but I think on Utah, I'm pretty sure he might be the only one that comes to mind right away.
Okay. Yeah, I talked about him in one of my last articles. For me, I think Arizona drafted him and thought he'd be a really offensive defenseman, and I think that's the role he's been filling, but not this year.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that in a negative way. I think that he's kind of figured some stuff out, and like I obviously the expectation is that he was going to score some goals, but I think like he's having an identity change,
hmm,
and he's more of a defensive defenseman now, which is fine. His numbers are good.
yeah,
I mean, no points, but his numbers are good.
yeah,
He's probably got some points.
yeah. No, he's a great defenseman. I know when I played against him, super super skilled, like so much upside, and like he just kind of controlled games. And I mean, he's still young for the NHL, right? So once he gets more games, more time, I'm sure that's going to start showing itself in the NHL level too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the last few games of the Utah Hockey Club. I know that you and your family are fans. I see you
Mm.
guys at all the games, and I know
Oh
you're
yeah,
following it. And let's start with the Pittsburgh game because that was
mm.
an important slump buster for us.
It was.
And I think even though they lost the next night, I think the confidence boost that Pittsburgh gave us was huge. And can you just talk a little bit about what you saw going right and what you thought was different than the games that they lost?
The biggest thing I think is confidence. Like you can just tell, like zone entries or even breaking the puck out, like they weren't gripping their stick. The like passes were crisp. They were going to the net a lot. They were shooting a lot more. And like to me, from watching from afar, that was to be like kind of the biggest thing that I see is I think they pass up on all the shots. But that Pittsburgh game, I mean, 6 goals speaks for itself. I have written down here in 4 of the last 5 games, they had 6 goals total, and then that game they put up 6. So I think just confidence with the puck, getting to the net, all those things they were doing right, and it obviously paid off for them.
Yeah, we're 21 games into the season and they've been
Yeah,
shut out 5 times.
yeah.
So at some point, that's got to mess with your head a little bit, right? You been through a slump like that or been with teammates or your team gone through something like that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think any hockey player can attest that at some point. I mean, 82 games is a long time, and so you're going to hit slumps. It doesn't matter, and I think I mean these guys. You got to think of all the things that have been thrown at them in the last year. I mean, they just had to move their whole team to a different city. I mean, things are going to happen, right? But when you go through slumps, like it just takes one instance to really break out of that. And I think the first period of that Pittsburgh game is what it was to me.
Yeah.
But
No, I think you're hitting it right on the head. A lot of fans online just keep chirping about shoot, shoot, quit looking for the pass.
yeah,
And I'm going to get into that a little bit more later, but when you look at that and then when you see like the first goal they scored last night in Toronto, that's that's because of that extra pass. That's
it
because of that
is.
vision. And that's one of the reasons you want a guy like that is or a team like this is they're young and their vision is great and they're such playmakers that
Mhm.
where's the balance between when to shoot and when to pass?
That's a really hard. That's a super gray area, right?
I'm just going to
I,
ask you
I
real simple questions.
yeah, no, for sure. No, super gray area. I mean, these guys are. I mean, these are the best players in the world, right? It's like it, and I would like to say to like all the fans, from what you see from the TV or even being at the game, it looks like they have a lot more time than you actually do. When you're in that game, like it's like this, right? So, um, but yeah, I don't know. It's like they're super skilled and they're playing the NHL for a reason. So when they want to make that extra pass, they believe they can and they're skilled enough to do it. But on the contrary, we lack a little bit of goal scoring, right? So I think the biggest thing for me is it's not always about getting that grade A chance. It's about that maybe grade C, grade B chance that turns into a grade A chance. So I don't know if there's necessarily like it's hard to say you should do this or you should do that because everything. I mean, hockey happens so fast, right? But I mean, it's they're so good. It's like you gotta kind of let them do their thing. But from afar, I do understand where fans are coming from, where you'd like to see them shoot a little bit more.
Right, and it's easy to say that from a fan, and like it always looks easy up in the box, right? Like it's
Yeah, exactly.
in your nice seat with your nice frosty beverage. I remember though, as a goaltender, I had some really good goalie coaches, and the 12 games or whatever I played at Shattuck St. Mary's, I had a coach there that told me he said like when you're in a slump, just keep it simple, break it
Yeah,
down, like do the basic stuff, and and then let that get you out of the slump, go back to everything else. Like for me, I was overly aggressive. That was one of the main things, like one of the big things that was always knocked on me. Well, besides being completely inconsistent. Um, but yeah, because sometimes you have these really great games and everything you did works. So you're gonna try that again, and it doesn't work the next game. You don't know
hmm,
why. But that coach was telling me, he's like, just step back. Like instead of
yeah,
being super aggressive off your goal line, just stay back on your goal line. Be a little bit more like let the little things work and then work on the big things later. And I think that's kind of the slump buster mentality. Um, and then that game we saw Schmaltz finally score.
yeah. That
And
was tough.
yeah, that's really hard because it's eating at that kid's head, right? Like that it's got to be driving him nuts because he's a goal scorer. He had a
Yeah,
lot of goals last
yeah,
year. And for him to not have a goal yet this year and to score and then have it be a race. But the very next play, this is the one thing that really impressed me about him is you would think a guy that's going through a slump like that would immediately shoot again and be
hmm,
like, I have to score, I have to score, I have to score. The next play, he set up an amazing goal.
yeah,
And it would have been easy to take that shot, but instead he saw that extra step, he saw that pass, and I think he fed Cooley. I'm almost positive it was Cooley, but
yeah,
I mean that's like the mental stability to do that. Most hockey players I know don't have that mental maturity to be like, hey, I'm still gonna make this pass. It's not
yeah,
gonna be a goal for me, but it's gonna be a pass. Did you see?
yeah,
What do you think of that?
for sure. I mean, it's super testament to him, right? Like, I mean, everything I've been through isn't nearly on the scale these guys were, but I've been through stretches like that where you're not scoring for a long time and it sucks. Like you lose sleep, you you do things a lot different, where you change the color of your tape, or you eat different, whatever. Like your whole life kind of gets spun from what you're used to, and so for him, like for him to get that goal, had get it taken back, like that could be the number one step to just the rest of your game just downhill, right? Like heartbreaker.
Yeah.
So to see him bounce back from that and set up a nice goal to where this team's struggling to score, making the right play, not for himself but for the team. I mean, that's exactly what you want in one of your star players, I think.
And when you just keep buzzing, like Schmaltz is everywhere. He's got a pretty smart game.
Yeah,
Those goals will come. I mean, they're
for sure.
especially the way they grind. So then the next night they go into Toronto. They get a goal right off the bat. Everything's looking good. For the most part, I thought we were being outshot a little bit, but I thought the play was mostly being controlled by Utah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that aggressive B swarm style forecheck was really working for us. We were creating a lot of turnovers, and then the wheels fell off in the second period.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a timeout, which I thought we should have done during the San Jose Sharks game. Actually, my son Tegan was like, "They should call a timeout. They should call a timeout."
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe, but definitely should have, right? Um, Talk about that. What do you think about the momentum in that game? And I mean, pretty good first and third period.
Yeah.
Second period, kind of weird.
First and third, super exciting and positive, right? And I think when you look back on kind of like post game interviews and media type stuff, the team really recognized that. But I mean, you guys are playing against the best players in the world, and if you take 20 minutes off, guys like Marner and Nylander, they're going to make you pay, right? So, but like you said, like their forecheck was great in the first and third, and then we just get into penalty trouble, and I think when you get the best players in the world on a power play for 12 minutes in a game, like you're really shooting yourself in the foot. And it's you talk about momentum. That's a good way to not have any momentum. But like kudos to the guys for getting back in the third because they really bounced back and made that a game. That game could have been 4-1, 5-1, 6-1 pretty easy. So
Yeah, I thought it was it was pretty crazy. And then like we were talking about the penalties, and you talked about how that throws off your momentum and stuff like that. Let's talk for a second about. I'm actually going to play a video here of Andre Torini, Coach Bear as we call him, and he's got some stuff he wants to talk about as far as penalties. This is after the Toronto game.
It's a big issue. I think you get on the road and you repeat the same mistake, the same guys, stick penalty, that kind of stuff. That's tough. Our game management, our game in the game cost us a lot today. From bad change to getting penalty trouble, then that kind of a stuff. It costs you at some point. And we play a team who's playing well. They had 3 wins in a row. They're not easy to play against. They fought. I think we had our chance. We hit a post. We did a lot of good stuff, but we need to help ourselves.
So when you see a coach say stuff like you can see the frustration.
for sure.
What do you take of that? What do you take about what he said?
So from personal experience, I actually played for him when I was in Colorado. He was one of my coaches my U14 year, and that, from what I saw from him in that interview, and granted, I'm talking U14 to NHL, so this is way, way, way different, right? But he was a super, super happy guy. And so when I saw that interview from the Bear that I know, he's pretty upset, right? Like penalties, the bad change on, I think it was the Marner goal, that breakaway goal. It's just like our Utah is so good. They're so fast. They're so exciting to watch. But you could tell like they're making the same mistakes kind of game in and game out. That's really shooting in the foot, because if you eliminate that, you eliminate that bad change led to the Marner goal, we have a 2-2 game. Or, just as far as like momentum goes, you kind of, you almost second guess yourself to where you get like, the more you think about staying out of the box, or the more you think about bad changes, it seems like the more it happens and it keeps happening.
Let's talk about that for a second. Well, first off, like we talked about this a little bit before we went on there. We lead the Utah Hockey Club leads the league in penalty minutes.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good no matter how you look at it. That change, we're talking about one of the best defensemen in the world of Sergachev going off the ice. But the puck was in the offensive zone, deep in the corner, and we had possession when he went to make that change.
Yeah.
And it's a long change. So I didn't hate. Everybody keeps saying it was a bad change. I just think it was bad luck.
Yeah.
Because
I would
never had a
that.
chance.
Yeah. I would agree with that. When you watch it back, it's like it happens like so fast to where he kind of commits to the change, and you could tell I don't know if you watched it super close, but you could tell as soon as he got to the bench, he didn't even hop the boards. He kind of just stared and kind of watched. Like, at that point, you're like, come on, man. Like, what do you want me to do?
So helpless.
But, yeah,
like,
exactly.
Man. And that's one of those things too, when you talk about, you've got momentum and you had the slump buster game, and then something like that happens. And for Sergachev to see one of the best players, the top scorer in the NHL, breaking down on a breakaway because you just changed, you're like, here we go again.
Yeah.
And it kind of turned out to be that way for a couple minutes.
Did.
Tell me about, like, if you're constantly on the penalty kill, your lines can't get their flow, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. And penalty killing's tough. Like, it's not an easy part of the game, right? Like, you use a lot of energy killing penalties. And so I know Schmaltz kills penalties. But you got to think like your top players, like Keller, who doesn't kill penalties, as far as I have noticed anyway. His legs are getting stiff on the bench, and you need a guy like that on the ice, right? So the more you keep like killing penalties, you're keeping those guys off the ice. You're only hurting yourself. On top of that, like guys like Schmaltz or Kraus or whoever, like some of your big dogs, are worried about or spending all their energy killing penalties for 12 minutes a game. That takes away from a lot of the offensive side of your game too, that could drag on. So that's just hard, because like teams work best when you can roll 4 lines, right? And when you kind of break up that momentum, then things like guys miss out a lot of ice time and the guys get a lot more ice time. So, I mean, that kind of that momentum on your bench could really mess things up in the long run of a 60-minute game.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned it, and it was funny because during the Washington Capitals game when they got a few penalties, and I heard other people around me going, "Why do they keep putting Ovechkin in the box? Because he's not going to kill that penalty.
Yeah,
It's not his
exactly.
job. The same, just it's not Keller's job. You know, our
Yeah,
friend Trevor Lewis has made an NHL career out of basically being the Energizer Bunny, just chasing down pucks on, and just getting in the way on PK1.
yeah, yeah,
And like, what has he been in the league 16, 17 years now? Because he's a good penalty killer. He's got
yeah. Close to
just broke
1,000
a
games.
yeah, he just broke 100 points in almost 1,000 games. So
Yeah.
clearly they weren't paying him to score goals. And that's another thing a lot of people don't understand is it's not everybody's role to score goals.
Yeah. I actually wanted to bring that up too. I didn't know if we are going to get to it, but I just wanted to like my appreciation for penalty killers because it's something that I kind of did in Portland and with the Grizz. But like I really have an appreciation for guys like that, and guys like Stenlin are so crucial to your team. Like I love watching that guy play. He's a face-off guy, kind of a glue guy, and penalty kill. He's awesome. Like guys like that, they really can make. They can be this difference between having a championship team and like a first round exit team. So I just wanted to say my appreciation for that guy because I think he's really crucial to the team.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I can't remember if it was in one of the articles. Yeah, it was one of the articles I wrote, a post game review, and I just thought he was on the wrong line. And I mentioned that I don't think he should be centering. I think he was on line 3 or line, I don't remember, but he's a specialty guy.
Yeah.
I thought he was a little slow to be with the guys he was with, and I got ripped apart by a few guys. Actually, Jack Skilly kind of tore me a little bit. He's like, "You should like Stenlin's a genius. Watch his game." I'm like, "No, I get it. I know that he's amazing." And I did mention, like, I didn't mention, but he was like a -8 or 9. He led the lead, or he led our team and plus minus at the time at -9 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that sucks for him, but I understand his role and I see his importance of his role. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool that you mentioned that because a guy like that is not on the score sheet a ton,
Mm-mm.
and he's doing all the dirty work, man.
Yeah.
He's just, and as a center, you know how it is. You get just offensive zone, defensive zone. You're the guy just crushing and chasing and spending a ton of energy. So yeah,
For sure.
he's a great addition to the team. Another guy that I think gets a lot of bad online publicity that in my eyes is actually kind of like the unofficial leader of the team. I'm not saying that Keller's not an amazing captain. Keller's doing his thing. But if you watch after every play, after every faceoff on the bench, the guy talking, the guy directing is Ian Cole.
Yeah.
And the guy that's eating a lot of shots too.
He is.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
a shot blocker. I've been really impressed with his game. I wondered if maybe it was a desperation move by Utah to sign a guy that was old
Mm-hmm.
by NHL specs, but man, he's just been a absolute positive addition to the team, and like he eats up 22 minutes a game
Yeah.
and just kills it. I think, and I know he makes
Yeah.
there's some sloppy plays, but I also think he's covering for other guys. And
Yeah. I mean, Utah's a super young team, which is part of the reason we like them, right? And I actually wrote down they're the 5th youngest in NHL, averaging 26 years old. But you could bring in a guy who I think I wrote down I think he's 35, like almost 850 NHL games, 2 cups. Like when you talk about when you talk about guys who win cup or teams that win cups, championships, all that stuff, it comes from guys like that have veteran leadership, that have experience in the playoffs, all that stuff. So I mean, I love the signing by Utah. It's genius. I mean, it's a guy that has been there, he's done that. Like 2 cups speak for itself. And like you just can imagine the experience and the stories that he can preach to guys like Cooley who are just coming to the league and helping them get to that next step to really understand like what they're in for, right? Like the first 20 games in the season that they've just played is going to be a lot different than the last 20, and hopefully into playoffs, right? Like it's a whole different animal. So to have a guy like that who can like not only on the ice but in the locker room really bring that team together and help them know what to expect is huge.
yeah, agree 100%. Fact you brought up Logan Cooley. I want to talk about him for a second too. And well, one, I wanted to say something before we moved on, talking about PK and power play. Our PK again, we lead the league in the most penalties, and we're 23rd in the league on PK percentage. So those two things are going to cause you to lose some games. And we realize that, right? We knew you can't get away with it forever.
Yeah.
But so now let's take a look at the lines and kind of see more. Let's see, I'm trying to get us over to the right thing here. I'm not very good at this. All right, so can you see this?
Yep, I got you.
So one of the things I want to talk about is Clayton Keller on not just the power play, but on every time he's on the ice. He's an amazing setup guy.
Yeah.
And he's constantly going out and he comes down and makes that Gretzky turn out towards the mid boards and pulls up and looks for that amazing pass that, again, somehow you just have to have that vision.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to see him shoot more. I'd like to see him make the defense respect him a little bit and maybe pull D towards him more, or respect him as a shot.
Yeah.
Am I nuts for thinking that, or we just let him keep doing what he's always done?
No, of course not. I mean, you'd always like to see these guys. Like I've said this 100 times on this episode, but guys are so skilled, right? And I think the last 3 seasons he has 28 goals, 37 goals, 33 goals. Like that's pretty legit. You'd be a 30 goal scorer in the NHL. I would consider you a goal scorer, right? And so yeah, you'd like to see him shoot the puck a lot, but there's so much gray area. I mean personally, you look at the shots, the team shots. I don't think there's many games that we've outshot a lot of teams, right? So I think I'd like to see anybody shoot it, but I mean, obviously, you put up 30 goals in NHL, you can score. Yeah, I mean, shoot the puck.
Yeah, I think, and normally he does. I don't know
Yeah,
what's going on. To me, I think Logan Cooley is showing himself as probably one of our most consistent, like opportunity generator, and it makes me wonder if he shouldn't be that line one center. And at the beginning of the year, I thought he was struggling a little bit in his role as a line two center, because that's a huge role in the NHL, because you're
for
matched up.
sure.
You're always matched up against the other line, like either the top line or the third line, and the third line is usually just a bunch of guys that are just there to shut you down, right?
Yeah.
So I thought about that, but there's that potential. You're taking all your best players and putting them on one line. What's your input on that?
Yeah, you definitely kind of want to spread the love around, right? And I think him and Gunther play really well together. Obviously in the Pittsburgh game, they connect really well together. I think on that line in particular, from what we're looking at, I think McBain's been awesome, and he's kind of the gritty side of that line. But yeah, I don't know. Like center's hard because it's such like it honestly could change depending on how you're doing the faceoffs that night. But Cooley and Gunther play really well together. Schmaltz and Keller play really well together. And then yeah, maybe you change it up a little bit, like Hayton and Cooley, and flip them around. But I mean, as time goes, I guarantee you're going to see that matchup, and it's going to get its time to shine. And I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, Schmaltz and Keller do play well together. They've been playing together since before they were on this team with
Yeah.
the U.S. developmental program and stuff. And it's cool to see a couple of Americans. Just shout that out.
Yeah, we love our Americans.
So what about our goaltending? What are your thoughts on goaltending this year?
Yeah, definitely not my expertise, so I'm not going to do much critiquing there. But I have really, really enjoyed watching Vejmelka play. Kind of his coming out party to me personally was that game against Carolina.
Right.
And yeah, he was crazy during the game, right? But the thing I think I loved the most is when the game ended and he was announced as a star, and he came out just fist pumping, smiling. Like, you see guys having that much fun like that, or that passionate, like it just makes you love the game, I think. So
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I look back the last 2 years, it seems like Veggie and Connor Ingram have been just kind of going back and forth on who's the actual starter. And this is a contract year for Vejmelka. So this is a great time for him to kind of bust out. And he's tied for first in the league with save percentage at 94%.
That's crazy.
We're being outshot every night, and he's just kind of been that guy we need. A couple of articles I talked about the need of our goaltenders to steal games. And I know Connor Ingram did that last year, and he led the league, or he was tied for the lead with 6 shutouts last year, which says a lot with as bad as Arizona was last year. We're not defensively, we're a lot better this year than Arizona has ever been, I think. And we're only going to get better when we get Marino and Dursey back.
Yeah.
Those two are like, I mean, that's got to be your probably D2 and D4.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. Big,
Um,
big, big shoes to fill for sure.
yeah. So I think we keep getting better. In the meantime, we need a guy like Vamelka who's doing what he's doing. He's consistent. It kind of shocks me because he moves really well, but he also seems a little cumbersome sometimes. He honestly, and I'll get a lot of heat for saying this, but he reminds me of the way I play with, especially with the goal that got banked on him from the goal line last night. That happens to me all the time because I'm a little bit more clunky, I guess. And
Yeah.
sometimes he looks that way to me, but man, he's always in the right spot. He seems to have a good battle, and he's got really good rebound control.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been awesome for sure. Yeah, like I said, like technicality wise, I can't do much critiquing on the goalies, but he's. I mean, like that Carolina game, for instance, what do you make 49 saves or
49.
I mean, he's getting a lot of pucks thrown at him, and as a player, that can really change how you play defensively. Like maybe you cheat a little bit offensively because and you're confident in who you have in net to kind of save your bacon on the back end. So it's always good to have a guy who's consistent like that. As a player, you feel a lot better about things.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. What are your thoughts on tonight's game against Montreal? What do you think is going to happen?
I
What
don't know,
needs to
man.
happen?
I hope we see a lot of the first and third period against Toronto. I hope we see that again. And when you listen to kind of things that they said after the game, I think that they know exactly what I said. Like there's so much upside, and getting out of that Pittsburgh game with a win finally, now they're feeling good. And I think there's things that feel good about the Toronto game too that are going to roll right into that Montreal game. And I will speak to this as a player. When you are in a slump, your team's in a slump, and you get to go on a week-long road trip with the guys, sometimes that's the best thing for it. So you'd hope that as they've been gone for as long as they have, that bonding is. I mean, they spend every day together, so it's not like they're not bonding, but being on the road together is different, right? So you'd hope that being in the fourth game of this road trip that they're really connecting, and like I said, just building off of the Pittsburgh game and the first and third from the Toronto game, and I think they're going to do just fine.
Yeah, I've actually, aside for a few minutes, we've said this about a few of their games too. There's just a few minutes where they broke down and it cost them the game, and that just shows you how dangerous the NHL is. When you just mess up a tiny bit, those guys are going to take advantage of you
for sure.
And but other than that, I've been really impressed with the play. And there was some negative comment online. One of the guys like, "Oh, you could take the team out of Arizona, but you can't take Arizona out of the team or the Coyotes or whatever." And I'm like, "Man, I just can't with you right now. If you didn't see how much progress that team made against what's basically the New York Yankees of the NHL, the team that buys every player that's good, and yeah, they didn't have Austin Matthews, but they've been doing better without him anyway.
Yeah.
So for our team to play that strong and lose by one goal, I saw the fight that I wanted to see. I saw some comeback. Speaking of fighting, I actually saw body contact.
Yeah.
Both in the Pittsburgh game and in the Toronto game.
Yeah.
Which I've barely seen any of. And I get that I'm an old school player. Maybe the new NHL doesn't hit as much. But I saw a lot of guys separating guys from the puck. Which I thought was going to make a lot of progress going forward. I hope that continues. It seems to be working.
Yeah, and you think even not to be that guy, but even when there's like scrums after the whistle, like there's guys in there to help. There's nobody on the outskirts, right? And that's what you want to see in a team because that they want to fight for their brothers. Like if you get into a scrum and there's two guys in and three guys out, then you're kind of worried about team chemistry and all that stuff. But I mean, every time it seems lately that any one of them's into it, the rest of them are into it, and I think that speaks volumes about the kind of team they are.
Yeah, I think so too. I honestly, I'm getting pretty excited to see how, let's see how the next 21 games go. But I'm pretty impressed with the progress we've made so far. I'm excited to see what happens. I wonder if we see Stauber in net tonight. That might be kind of interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, I don't know much about him, so that would be interesting.
Yeah, when we haven't had a lot of guys get called up for, for this far into the season to only have a couple guys, Maverick gets called up and he's been doing, for the most part, been doing really well. There are some rookie mistakes that you expect to see, which is funny. I didn't see him in like his first 5 games. He seemed to just make all the right decisions, and he's had a couple mistakes since then, and he keeps
Mm-hmm.
getting penalties, which that'll get you sent down pretty quick if you.
Yeah.
That's a maturity issue a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm pretty excited about it. And what's your prediction? Who wins tonight? What's the score?
I gotta say Utah takes it. I'm going 4-2.
Nice. That's exactly what I was gonna say. I'm gonna go 4-1. I'm gonna give Veggie a little more credit.
Nice. I like it.
Well, Mason, thank you so much for joining the show. I think we should do this a lot more.
Totally.
The shows, we're gonna just keep going on with the NHL, and we're gonna talk about the Utah Grizzlies. So next week we should get together and talk about the NHL and talk about the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
And I want to thank also I got to thank I got a new sponsor. And it's
Nice.
called Only Crowns. I said Only Crowns. And that officially kicks in next week. You'll see all the stuff we'll be talking about them. But I just thought, man, a dentist, like a crown thing, sponsoring a hockey show. Talk about a dead-on match, right? That's perfect.
Yeah, no kidding. That's
So-
good. They might get some good business through the hockey world. So
I think they're gonna look. Hockey's just gonna keep growing here. We're gonna have more and more hockey players. I've got several teeth. I think your dad was there when some of mine got knocked out. He might have been
nice.
might have been the one that knocked them out on accident. I don't know. So yeah, hockey players need crowns all the time.
Always. Oh yeah.
You have all your own teeth?
Yeah, I got pretty lucky. I broke the bottom 4, but everything is real.
Nice.
Nothing had to get fixed too bad. So
That's very cool. Also want to thank Nick Archer. I don't know if you can see my my Yeti jersey.
is that a prediction?
Yeah, I think it's gonna happen, man. What do you think?
I don't know. This is gonna sound crazy, and I've heard other people say this, so maybe it's not that crazy. But I don't hate what it is now.
Yeah,
Like I love the jersey so much that like I almost don't want that to change. I guess maybe more so than anything else. But I do think it's gonna be Yeti. I guess is my prediction.
I think it's gonna be Yeti. I think the jerseys are basically gonna stay as they are.
Yeah.
Maybe the addition of one jersey having a Yeti logo on it somewhere, and I think
Yeah.
maybe instead of the inaugural patch on the shoulders, you're gonna see a Yeti there, but it's going to say Utah across the front. This is my guess. And it's also something that Chris Armstrong has said ish. I might be paraphrasing or I might have read stuff into what he's saying, but I've been around these guys quite a bit. I know that Yeti was like overall like 80% of the vote.
Oh, the guys voted that way?
Yeah. No, not just the guy. I like just everybody that voted. When it went out.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
When it came back, like it was and I don't know that this is the official. I don't know where. I can't remember exactly where I heard this, but I heard like ages 25 and older were voting for, Outlaws and Mammoth and stuff like that. And then 25 and younger was almost 90% Yeti.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the next generation's team anyway. Like I'm just glad to be here and I'm going to watch it for the rest of my life.
That's kind of how I am too.
Yeah. So, and honestly, I don't care. And I'm fine with Utah Hockey Club. But it would be cool to say like instead of saying UHC or welcome to, if you're the guy screaming welcome them onto the ice, it'd be cool to say the Yeti instead of having to say the whole Utah Hockey Club.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing for me is I love that it says Utah on it just because being from Utah. I mean, I guess that's the only thing. But other than that, who cares? We got NHL here, so that's all that matters.
That's exactly my sentiment. All right, Mason. Well, we'll get back in touch with you. We'll talk about the Grizzlies. I know they're not off to the start they wanted to be, but Ryan Kanasowicz was pretty excited about the team he was going to have. So my guess is they're going to be good. I can't see him not being good the whole time. So I imagine they've had some pull-ups and they're going to figure some stuff out.
Yeah, I got a big heart for the Grizzlies over there, so I'm always down to talk about them.
Oh yeah, I'll never forget when you were a little kid and your voicemail said you've reached Mason Mannek from the Utah Junior Grizzlies. Like you were destined to play for the team, bud.
Maybe, who knows?
And it's too bad. Next time we're on, we're gonna have to talk the whole thing about the trade and what kind of made you decide to step away from the Grizzlies. Yeah, it's
probably a longer story than these guys want to hear, but we could definitely talk about it.
I'm sure you've got a ton of fans here, man. Every time I bring you up or write an article about you or anything, people still love you here, and you're not too far removed, so people want to hear, and we'll get it all discussed.
I appreciate it. Yeah, everyone treated me so well. I owe everyone a lot of stuff, a lot of things. So
All right. Well, big thanks to Mason Mannek for coming on the show. Big thanks to Only Crowns for being our sponsor that starts next month. I want to thank Chipman Roofing for being the sponsor for the last year. It was awesome to have them on board. Again, thanks to Nick Archer for getting me some threads, getting ready to be a Yeti. And that is the Utah Puck Report.